Welcome to 909 Exec, your source for wit and wisdom in cybersecurity and beyond. On this podcast, your host, Veteran Chief Security Officer and cyber aficionado Den Jones, taps his vast network to bring you guests, stories, opinions, predictions, and analysis you won't get anywhere else. Join us for 909 Exec episode 39 with Justine Benjamin.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of 909 Exec, your trusted source for executives in tech and all the nonsense that we get up to in the background to try and keep ourselves sane and not lose our shit along this journey. And every episode I get some amazing guests, and today is no different. Justine Benjamin, or BJB, God, I almost got it wrong, that would have been awesome. Or Jojo, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Hex-Rays. Hey, and I got to know you as Jojo when we met. So,
yes.
Justine, jump away. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, no problem. My name's Justine. I would say in the workplace, more often known as JB, a nickname I kind of adopted, 15 plus years ago. We were talking about me. We're introducing me. Yeah. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Hex-Rays, currently based in San Jose, California. And Hex-Rays itself is actually based out of a small little town in Belgium. So a very interesting time difference in workspace for me there.
Yeah, and you are remote working because you're not in Belgium, I'm guessing.
I'm
so
not.
why don't you share a little bit about Hex-Rays? What is it? What is it they do as a company? And what is your role entail?
Yeah, so Hex-Rays is in the cybersecurity space, but within a very niche part of the cybersecurity space. So we create leading binary analysis tools. So really a platform for people to be able to ethically hack or reverse engineer. We were founded in 2005, but I would say the origins of the company started in the 90s. So it's got a really rich history and background and very beloved by the community. When you think about the types of people who use our technology, it's anywhere from your hobbyist who likes to do capture the flag contest to somebody who's learning how to maybe reverse engineer a game to get a better cheat code, all the way to those very popular three-letter acronyms of agencies within the government, both stateside and over in Europe as well.
Yeah, one of them I may have been in a call with just before this, just before we hit record.
Yeah.
And so you're marketing. So what's it like? So and you've got a seasoned career, which we're going to dig into in a minute. But what's it like marketing this type of technology to this type of audience?
You know, it's very different from what I've historically done. This is my first step into cybersecurity. I had a very long history in advertising technology across lots of different types of media. I felt really strongly about my ability to market that. As I've come into this area, I would say my role entails talking to all of those customers, right? So I have kind of what I bucket as like my power users. So these could be individuals who may do this for work, may reverse engineer for work, or may just do it because it's fun. And maybe they're like a malware analyst, or maybe they're like in, penetration testing, maybe something adjacent to reverse engineering. Or I have enterprise customers who are, government agencies and bodies and police and law enforcement and things like that. So two different ways that I talk to them.
Yeah.
The enterprise is very familiar to what I've kind of done before. It's pretty straightforward. No nonsense. Here's the updates. Here's how I can serve the fields and the challenges that you're having. With the power users, it's heavily community marketing, which I have fallen in love with. It's very different from what I'm used to before, but it's very boots on the ground. It's very casual. It's just really understanding how they're using the technology, what works and what doesn't work. So I'd say it's actually a lot easier. A lot of how we market to the community is just about engagement and just having conversations.
So is that, it's interesting because I was about to ask before you said enterprises, I was about to ask, was it more a B2C play? But it seems like there's a B2C and a B2B, right? So I guess for the audience, actually, if you're watching this podcast, you should bloody know what that is. So shame on you if you don't. So when you're thinking of the marketing, so the B2B stuff, I think of it like, there's conferences and then there's LinkedIn and there's ad campaigns and blah, 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 blah. And the B2C, I look at it like there's Reddit, there's, these other platforms. Is that how you actually jump into that?
That's how I thought it would be.
Yeah. So what is it? What's the reality? Because that's what I thought it would be. So what's the reality?
The reality is, and I'm very, very fortunate to have this be the reality of my situation. The reality is everybody knows who we are.
Yeah.
So there's no real brand awareness that needs to happen. When we go to a conference, the interesting thing is the product brand is stronger than the corporate brand. So when we go to conferences and I say I'm from Hex-Rays, people are like, huh? And I say, oh, we make IDA. Everybody knows that. So that's been a fun project as marketing is starting to tie together the two brands, the product brand and the company brand. But I don't have any brand awareness plays. I would say how I approach the enterprise is really just it's more product marketing. So it's like, here's what comes in the latest release. Here are the new add-ons and the plugins that make sense for your specific use cases, whether that's whether you're doing malware, whether you're doing trying to tackle mobile and gaming fraud. It's just really tying features to their challenges there. And that comes through emails and maybe some one-pagers. And it's very simple. I've never had a better email open rate in my entire career than I do here.
Wow.
They love it. They open it. I don't spam them. It's once a month. Here's everything you need to know. So enterprise is pretty cut and dry. And candidly, a lot of the communications happen with the sales team. I don't really manage that. I just kind of make it and hand it all over. With the community, that has been very much me, very much digging my feet in. So we have a lot of platforms. Twitter does the best. People kind of have migrated over to Blue Sky, but I think having a Blue Sky account is more about saying this is what my political views are versus this is the actual platform I use.
Right.
And then there's some really niche ones like Mastodon. Have you heard of this?
Yeah,
Yeah. No idea before I got here. But that's also a place where I speak to them. So my B2C, my power users are very much on my social platforms. They don't open my emails as much, but they have a lot of Google alerts set as well. So anytime I post something on our blog or anytime our website gets an update of some sort, they're on it. Wow. So they've I just push out the information and they've chosen where they want it, get it from. And again, the power users are really interested in giving input on how to enhance the product, which we use a lot. It reflects our roadmap significantly in a very good way.
That's great. I mean, is that speaking to the quality of the product as well as the age of the product and maturity? I mean, does it all come hand in hand?
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, to cap off the last question when it comes to ad campaigns. So I came in and I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to my enterprise audience through LinkedIn. That just makes sense, right? That's what I'm going to do. Total bomb. Complete bomb. Not a good use of money. And then we were like, okay, let's test Reddit. And so what we wanted to test Reddit was what we find is that our power users, our B2Cs, maybe aren't financially in the position to purchase the product like somebody at a company can do for them. And like I said, a lot of them, this is what they do on the side. But their feedback is, I don't want to say more valuable, I'm going to say extremely valuable. So we try to do things where we give a heavy discount to an individual. Like a corporation can back you up. So we found Reddit to be a really good platform to reaching those individuals and being able to get them like a really cool discount, whether it's on the product or whether it's on online training that we have. So I found that to be very, very beneficial, very cost efficient, extremely cost efficient.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap that up, but
Yeah,
the
it's
second
it's funny. Advertising on Twitter and Reddit is way cheaper, and I think more visibility than I'd ever get on LinkedIn.
yeah, I'm going to play with advertising on Twitter next quarter to kind of help with our online training courses to see how it goes. Right now, our organic reach is pretty insane. It's where everybody has us anyway. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets me any incremental
Yeah.
reach. Yeah.
And another one for me is TikTok, because one of our plays is a platform for students. So we're trying to encourage students to sign up. It's free for them to sign up. But TikTok's where a lot of the young kids hang out. So there's that. And then Discord's the other one, but I haven't spent many minutes in the Discord,
Yeah.
world. So it
Yeah.
just, for me, my son's there all the time. My daughter's there a lot. And I'm like, not my shit.
Yeah. I looked into Discord advertising, and it's not your traditional advertising, which is fine. It's really content driven and really community driven. So it
Yeah.
could be a good play. But I'm a team of 1.5 currently. So we're just kind of
Yeah, me too.
stay focused.
On my marketing, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, folks, just want to take a minute to say thanks for listening to the show, watching the show, or however you engage with us. If you're liking the conversations, if you think we're adding some value, we'd love you to like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends. If you know of anyone else that would benefit, ideally for us, that will help us be able to grow the show, invest more in the quality, get some more exciting guests, and keep bringing you some executive goodness. Thanks, everybody. Take it easy and enjoy the rest of the discussion. So let's talk a little bit about so I mean, you've led marketing teams for a number of years, right? So before here, like AdsWiz and Cadent, you were in there. So I mean, so what got you into marketing? Like the young Justine at high school, like what did you really want to do when you grew up?
I really wanted to be a teacher, and I really thought I was going to be a teacher. And I think as I got older, like I don't know why I remember this, but I remember just being in a car and seeing like a billboard. And it was a really witty play on words for the brand. No idea what the brand is. But I just remember it being really witty and being like, that's really cool. Like, could I do that? And my dad at the time is like, I think that's marketing. So I think that kind of planted the seed. I was really on a trajectory to be in healthcare and like the administrative side of it, just kind of by proxy of my mom. My mom gave me and all my siblings our first jobs in doctors' offices and hospitals. That's kind of the path my sister took. My brother took an adjacent path through a connection through the hospital. And this is a funny story. I had a friend who was an exotic dancer.
Oh,
And
in
listen,
San Jose, perhaps?
in the area, and no judgment. Listen, that's hard work.
Yeah, no,
And
it's hard work.
one of their customers was visiting, patronizing the business, and asked her, hey, like, do you need a job? And she was like, I have a job. Like, we're literally at my job. And she's like,
You're
why?
visiting me at work. Shit, fuck.
And he's like, I know somebody who's looking for like a Swiss Army knife, like an office manager, but they have to have some finance background and some other background, this and that. And they go, well, actually, I have a friend who's looking for a job. And it was me at the time. I was looking for a job. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so I was like, okay, I send my resume. They were surprised that my resume matched. And we met at a coffee shop and just hit it off. And it was exactly what I was looking for at the time and what they were looking for at the time. So at 17 years old, I started working at my first startup. It was in the semiconductor industry, and it was like a two-prong approach for how they did business. It was an engineering consultant agency, so where they, put out engineers to companies like Synopsys and Cadence. And then they also, those engineers that were consulting out there on the side, built like an automated verification tool to like check in your work. And then we would sell that as part of like consultancy. We'd be like, hey, like, you like this engineer, you like what they're doing? By the way, we also have software you can purchase. So I was the office manager. I was the executive assistant. I helped the CEO with all the finances and billings. I built the website. And that was kind of my first dip and taste.
Like your 17-year-old Jojo sitting there, Swiss Army knife, website building included.
Yeah.
And so how did you get from there into the marketing game?
So I was there for about 2 years, and then I ended up following one of the executives to another company, and then they needed somebody to do that plus marketing assistance. And so that just kind of bled into there, where I would help out with marketing and events. And then another mutual friend of ours, perhaps, was working at another technology company, and they were looking for an executive assistant. And I was like, I happen to be wanting to get out of my current job, and I kind of stepped away, and I was doing like weight loss consulting. And listen, you just got to pay the bills sometimes when you're going to school. And they were looking for an executive assistant. So I went there with my tech chops of an executive assistant as well. And then just kind of like, it was an environment where they were open to letting you expand. And I said, look, I've dipped my toes into marketing before. I really like it. They're like, great. And so I started working underneath the director of marketing, and then just slowly built and acquired skills after that. And I think it started off with events. It went to PR. It went into product marketing, and just kind of built, I think, strategically, or whether by my preference in work environments. I choose young companies, scale-up companies that have a lot of room to grow, so where I can just kind of spread.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting, right? Because I mean, as you've been growing your career, what advice do you have for someone who's trying to break into marketing now? I mean, if they're like fresh out of school, and quite often, like, I think sometimes they'll leave school and they'll have done some random business thing. Actually, my daughter, she's doing business, with a minor in media. So when she leaves, it's like she doesn't really know what she wants to do. So if you got somebody like that, and they're all of a sudden they're like, oh, I really want to do marketing. How do you advise these young kids that they get started? Like,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I have asked that question myself, and I will modify the answer I was originally given with my own experience. So I think there's two paths to, if you really want to dive in and excel and get into marketing and say perhaps be a marketing leader. One is kind of like the master of a specific trade, right? Like if your heart is in digital marketing or advertising marketing, things like that, like find it, stick to it, own it, and just be the best at it, right? And if that's kind of the course that you want to take, say maybe you just want to be like a director of product marketing, or a director in digital marketing, like got to do that, got to own it, you got to know everything. The other path is if you're looking to be more of like a CMO or like a head of marketing, it's the generalist approach, where it's kind of like, I don't want to say a master of none, but a very seasoned expert at many things. And that would be start with a discipline that really interests you when you come out. Things that are easy to do these days is digital marketing or content marketing, things like that. Those are things that are high in demand, and kind of build up a few years of experience in that, and then see where else you can grow within the company, right? So you're starting to build your portfolio, right, across the board. You don't have to be a master at everything if you want to be a head of marketing, but I'm going to say at least 60 to 70% of that.
And generally, you would have probably been a master at one of the disciplines. I mean,
Yeah.
by the time you get to the CMO level, you had to have ran through the ranks usually, right? I mean, otherwise, you're just a leader of something and lucky enough to end up doing the marketing shit. So
Yeah.
somehow you probably
Yeah.
went through the ranks, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely went through the ranks. I don't want to say clawed, but I climbed. It was a long climb. I actually don't have an education in marketing, so everything that I have and everywhere that I'm at today is through experience and through learning on the job and learning outside of the job, reading a lot, teaching myself. So
Yeah, and I think so then there's the thing that goes into, the side of like the hustle, the grit, the determination, the desire to be successful, right? I mean, I'm one of the rare people in my industry that doesn't have a degree. And
same.
I meet so many people that are like educated through the wazoo, and it's like, okay, well, I ran enterprise security at Adobe as my last big job. Well, actually, Cisco, I ran enterprise security there. That was my last big job. And then I went to a startup, and then I was their CSO and ran security and IT. And it's like, and I still don't have a degree. And it hasn't, I mean, I feel it hasn't held me back because I think I've compensated for the grit, determination, the street smarts, the
Hmm.
EQ. So
Hmm.
that's helped. Um, but I think it's funny, right? In the journey in the path, when you kind of reflect back on your one, is there any move that you wish you had done that you kind of regret, or is there anything? Yeah, I'll stop there. That's an easy question or a loaded one.
Any regrets? I'll tell you what I'm going to do, which I'm pretty good at. I'm gonna give you one final answer from the previous question, and while I'm giving that answer, I'm gonna think about a regret. Okay.
Right,
So my
go.
last advice, which ties into what you said that you and I have in common, which is not having a degree or even a degree in the discipline in which we're working in. When I look back and I think about, yeah, it was grit, but my husband has to remind me, or he tells me I'm an overachiever. I'm not aware of that at all. Like I don't think that I am. I think
Yeah,
I just like work. Like it gives me my dopamine boost. Like it just feeds me. I feel fulfilled for it. I like doing things with my brain. So work naturally like works really well with me. But one of the things that I've had to look at is how you grow or advance, and those could be two separate trajectories. You can still grow. If you never want to be a leader, you never want to manage people, that's totally fine. You still can grow. But I think the thing that you need to have, or the trait and the advice I would give, is to not shy away from asking questions. And when you do that, you do it to everybody benefits, right? So it's the person you're in a situation with, they see that like there's no hubris involved. Like I'm just trying to get down to the problem. I just want to do the best job I can. I don't care if it's a stupid question. I don't care if it's a complex question. They're both questions that are going to help me get to where I need to get. And I think what it also does is it shows your team or people around you who are maybe in more junior positions that it is okay to ask questions. So that would be advice that I would give to anybody in addition to where they're looking at.
it's
So
perfect.
there's that. Regret.
I know. While you were answering the last question, at the back of your brain, you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit."
Okay, this isn't a cop out. I swear
Yeah.
to you, this isn't a cop out. But I firmly believe that every single decision that I have made has led me to exactly where I'm at right now. And I'm very satisfied with where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful answer because here's the thing in life, I try and tell people you actually shouldn't have any regrets
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
because unless your life absolutely sucks and you're a miserable git, which some people are. But I look at it. I'm an optimist, right? So I look at decisions I could have made along my journey that may have resulted in a different or better outcome, maybe financially, emotionally, or whatever. But I never look back with regret. I look back and recognize I learned.
Yeah,
Like those were opportunities to grow.
yeah. And I 100% agree. And for me, if I do have regret or whatever is close to regret, to me, oh, are we back?
Yep. Oh, keep going. There. Oh, yeah. We'll probably need to have the editor cut that little slice there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of regret. I'm not a fan of stress either. I try
Yeah.
not to do that. Some people don't like broccoli. Like I don't like regret or stress. I just try not to.
You don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny for me. I look at it like I think it's important to recognize in life, you can always look back and reflection, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? But the reality is in life, you make the best decisions you can at the time with the information you've got in the circumstances you're in. And I think that's vital, especially in business. And the other thing for me was I read this somewhere, I can't remember where now, but someone said a decision which is easy to be changed or changeable should be made quicker than the decision that's unable to be changed, right? So if you make the decision and that thing cannot be changed, right?
Yep.
I mean, like having a baby's a good one, right? It's pretty hard to stuff those suckers back in once they're born, right? So
Yep.
that is a big decision, right?
Right.
But buying the furniture that's in our rooms right now shouldn't be the hardest decision.
Yeah.
In business, a marketing campaign isn't a hard decision.
No.
Like it
It's got a
shouldn't be
great
hard.
cancellation period.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah. Just don't sign up for 10 years of the same shit or something.
Exactly. Right. You subscribe, have good cancellation policy. So what you were saying too about the decision and the time frame. So I don't remember if I read this was like relationship advice or something, but I apply it to everything in my life, which is if you have an emotional response to a situation, don't respond for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Sit with it. And then 24 hours later, if you still feel that way, say something about it, but do not wait till you do not go past 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Or sometimes people would say send the email to yourself. So because not everything needs said.
Yeah.
I try and give that advice to my kids. I try and remember that. Actually, my son had a school situation going on. And I think the teacher in specific was singling him out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much, I shot an email off to them and said some basic stuff, but kept it really all pretty productive. And my son was like, "But you never called out this, you never called out that, you never called it," and there was like 5 or 6 things that was pretty egregious that I'm like, "Oh fuck it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
And I said, "Look," I said, "either way, mate." I went, she has it in for you. It doesn't matter whether we list out the 5 things that were wrong about her statements or her thing. And for me in life, sometimes, and I think in leadership, this is absolutely vital. You do not always have to have the last word. You do not always have to be right. And you do not have to crucify everybody that screws you over.
No, you gotta choose your battles for sure.
Choose your battles wisely, and you don't need to win it all. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you just antagonize things more and make stressful situations even worse. And the other thing is, you don't know what kind of day they're having. Maybe they're having the worst day in their life, and they don't need to tell you that shit, right? So I'm not going to try and crucify a teacher because she's been an asshole to my kid. Maybe it's just not, her best moment or whatever. And at the end of it, and it was funny because this was Future Farmers of America. And I'm like, well, son, I went, do you plan to be a farmer when you're older? Like, that's not what you told me you want your career to be. I went, so maybe we just get you out that class.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, and I think in leadership, I think it's really important. Now, the funny thing, that then 10 years ago or 20 years ago, anybody who's watching us now that reported to me 20 years ago would be like, he's an asshole. So I think there's a level of maturity that comes over time for sure.
100%. So I think I started managing at the weight loss center.
Yeah.
I think I was in my 20s, and most of my employees were like 18 to 20 women. And so the amount of hormones and the general environment there was just insane and great and very beautiful, but also could be very challenging at times. And I told my husband when he first started managing, I don't know how long ago, and he was like, well, like this is hard. And I was like, guess what? He's like, what? I'm like, you're a shit manager for the first year. Guaranteed. I don't care who you are, you're
Yeah.
horrible. There's just too much involved. I'm like, and the next year, you get better and you learn and you start to like, you know, learn mistakes the hard way. And then by like the third year, you're starting to get really like hit your stride and get more into it. But like anybody who's starting off leading a team or managing, just
Yeah.
do the best you can, make sure nobody dies
Yeah.
and make it to the first year. Very much like parenting, just keep them alive,
Yeah.
keep them fed and paid for the first year. But it definitely grows, it definitely develops.
Yeah.
Also,
Now, because I know you're a mother with two young children. You've got a husband. You're juggling life. You're juggling work. So what are the tips or tricks that you've got that you use to keep you sane while trying to juggle all this shit?
for me personally, I think my DNA, my makeup is a little different. I can drive myself into the ground and not be aware of it.
Hmm.
So I think for me and any individuals like me, it's important to have people around you who can be your tether and who can also like be really straight with you and
Yeah.
be like you're not happy, this sucks, you're stressed, because I can just be so consumed and all or nothing. So I think that's one. Two, as far as like how do you keep sane? I think it's having an honest conversation about, is it my personality traits or is it my environment? And if you can establish that are things that you have control over, then it's like parenting, it's trial and error. You
Yep.
just, pull up a blog, ask ChatGPT for some tips and tricks, and you find what works. What works for me is not forcing myself to push through when my brain needs a break.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting here and I don't break. Like this is it. I'm here. Everybody else is on the other side of the world. So if I finish a task and I'm just kind of sitting here and my brain's just kind of like spinning or not knowing to do next, instead of like forcing myself to get through, nope, stand up, walk away.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but there's lots of different methods for that where it's like it could be as truncated as like 25 minutes of productivity, 5 minutes break. I tend to go through more of a natural flow and more task oriented. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this one thing, get this out the door, and then I'm going to go do some dishes. I'm going to put a load of laundry in. I'm going to go walk the dog. And while I'm out there doing those tasks, those mundane, like physical tasks, like I was doing with that question,
Yep.
then my brain's already starting to work on the next task, right?
Yeah.
In figuring it out. And so by the time I sit down, I've already like formulated basically a full draft of maybe what I need to work on. So I think really acknowledging how you work and when you need breaks and not forcing yourself to power through just because you gotta power through. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's important. And vacation.
Yeah. Like real vacation, like where you're not working the whole time.
Yes, sign
Yeah.
off. Take your vacation. So I'd say have a tether and somebody honest in your life. Understand your work spurts and your work breaks and when you need them, and then really step away because that's more of an exaggerated version of what you're doing day to day, right? You're having work spurts and you're taking a break. You need the macroscopic point of that where you have a long amount of work and you need a longer amount of break on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I mean, I think just the whole burnout thing during COVID, then a lot of people really woke up and realized, and then actually, and I was in a roundtable session this morning that I was presenting at, and one of the things I talked about was this burnout. Like, and a lot of people I think realize, like, why are we killing ourselves for this? And half these companies will lay you off in a minute without thinking about it. They don't give a shit. So
Yeah.
it's very, it's very strange that over our careers we kill ourselves for this company or any company that doesn't give a shit. And you've got young kids that are growing up that don't get to see their parents because we're doing the 60-hour week. So I vowed, I when I left Cisco, not that Cisco was a bad place like that, but I certainly had a role and a responsibility where I was working 16 hours a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't all productive work. That's the thing. The bigger the company, the more bureaucracy and bullshit you deal with.
Oh, the
So
meetings. Like I had
yeah,
6 hours of meetings a day at my last company and was supposed to do like 2 to 3 jobs because they kept having to downsize and trim. And I wrote COVID here as well. I would say
yeah,
like since COVID, it just went pear-shaped, right? Progressively. And I
yeah,
think the progression was so subtle that like, again, it's me, like I didn't know. But it got to the point where like my kids would bring home like a Mother's Day project and my mom's good at work, or my mom, like everything, like all these things and how they viewed me, or then when they would draw pictures of me, it was sitting at this desk. And
yeah.
those were the tethers and those were the reality checks that I needed. And so I actually quit my last job, which went through a lot of changes. Like I stayed through like 2 different acquisitions. It just kept taking more work after each acquisition. And when I just quit, I didn't have anything else lined up. I said I'm going to leave it up to the universe. And
Yeah.
I went to the doctor because I knew I was physically killing myself, and I came back with like 3 different diagnoses that like was like not okay because of what was happening with my
Yeah,
health. So,
one was probably crazy for putting up with all the bullshit.
yeah, man. Like, oh, I managed to, it wasn't a
Yeah,
large team. It was about a dozen people, but like, and as a mother or as a parent,
yeah,
like it's also an emotional burden that you carry when you
it
manage
is.
people as
But
well.
it's interesting, yeah, because the bigger your team, bigger your organization. And I tell people this all the time, like it's less about technology leadership. Quite often, it's about uh, glorified babysitting of adults, and really their burdens and their problems are challenges that you also have to deal with. And the higher up the organization you go, the less fun conversations you have. It's usually always the bad news. It's always the
Yeah,
dramas and the escalations.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Now, I know we're up on time, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your opinion on how you think AI is going to change the world of marketing.
Well, I'll tell you how it's changing my world.
Yeah.
No, how I think it's going to change the world of marketing. Um, I think we are, okay, I'll relate it to like weightlifting. We're currently in a bulk phase right now. Where we're at. That makes sense, right? Like we're trying to put on the pounds, we're trying to get as much as we need with it. Maybe I don't know enough about weightlifting to carry this analogy through, but I'm gonna try. Okay, I'm
Keep
gonna
going,
try.
keep going.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna do one more rep.
I think this will probably be the humorous part of the show.
No, but I think where we are with AI specifically in marketing right now is that everybody's trying to use it as much as they possibly can and to let it take over as much of their work as they can. There's good and there's bad, and I think what AI does is it's almost like natural selection. Like if you're somebody who knows your job really well and can do it, but maybe you're under resourced because they've had 3 different layoffs and maybe you don't have somebody do the remedial work, you
Mhm.
can use AI as a marketer to get rid of like the BS, right? Or at least to like do a first draft. So here, for example, we have a product release coming up. I have my release notes, from the engineers, I have the messaging notes from my product, and then I just build like an outline, right? I build an outline, I put it in there. Well, I guess I'm looking for more LLM versus AI, but still,
Yeah.
I have the meat of my source material. I'll throw it into some LLM, and then it'll spit back to me some ideas. That's all I need. Just something to get me into first gear, right? Because that's the hardest you need to do, get into first gear. And then I'm done. I go through, I clean it up. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. And it saves hours of time. So I think if you have somebody who knows their job, knows what they want, and just needs a little help with that, um, it's very successful. People who don't know their job, don't know what they want, and fully rely on AI or LLMs are not going to last. They're not going to survive. I
Yeah.
still don't think it's ever going to take away that aspect of it. There's just decisions that it can't make. It could be a sounding board for you. So anyways, long way of saying we're bulking right now. We're using it and consuming it as much as we possibly can, but we're going to get to the point where we're going to see that the end result still isn't as good as what a machine and a human can do together. And then we'll start cutting. Is that right? Is that the right term?
Yeah. Trimming down or something. I don't know.
There you go.
Do you think this guy's a weightlifter? I mean, Jesus. Like the only gym I know, there's usually a guy that I'd go to the bar with, probably.
So I think it's just another piece of technology that we're gonna overconsume, and then eventually the dust will settle and we'll see where it has its place. But I personally haven't been able. It will never take the place of a full human.
I've got sessions that I've been in where I've seen people set up hosts of agents in sales, marketing, and technical roles to really orchestrate and automate tasks and blah 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 blah. And it's very elaborate, but to your point, it still requires someone to understand like what that process, what that workflow, what good looks like, so that you know the checks and balances, and you can really kick things off in a way that has some level of direction. That's brilliant. What else I want to close with? Let me see. If you had one piece of advice for a woman in technology, right? So I don't always like to jump into the poor women trying to do their careers and shit here, but I do recognize and I do try to bring in more women into our show because I think there's an imbalance. But so if you had one advice for women in technology that are working with male leaders, something that helps them be successful, what would that be?
I thought about this. I thought about it in a different way that you're phrasing.
Well, you can even change one thing in life. You're allowed to change the question and give me a rephrased question with a better answer.
Okay. So I as a woman without a degree, as a woman of color, I have found challenges throughout my career, but maybe not oddly or maybe against the status quo, my challenges have actually been with other women and other cohorts of women. And that didn't happen until later in my career. So I'm going to give a little bit more of a background and then I'm going to answer the question. So for me, growing up and growing in the tech field, most of my advocates and mentors were men. And I don't know if that's a nature of being in technology because it's just predominantly men, or what. In my personal life, I do have very strong female relationships, but I also have I kind of hang with the dudes more. It just tends to be more of what I'm interested in. Tend to be a little bit nerdy in my personal interest, which a lot of women don't. There's a lot of.
Well, our mutual friend that we met through is probably one of the nerdiest, smartest guys I've ever met. And when he talks to me, I'm sitting there trying to keep up.
And he's my best mate.
And you hang with
mate. And we are. I mean, if you were to look at the text messages that we were sharing yesterday, we were literally listing out, and I'm reading this, and I'm watching this, and this, and it's all these are the things that we're doing. Okay, so that aside. So my advice is a replication or duplicate of what I said before. I think as a woman, whether you're with other women or men, it goes back to asking questions. And I would say my advice, and no matter what situation you're in, is to be able to have, it's a superhuman power to ask a question. It is not a weakness. And if you feel like you're in a situation where somebody you feel like they might demean you because you're asking questions. I have this saying where I give advice to people where if they don't know how to bring up the subject, the first thing you say is, I don't know how to bring this up, but here we go. And the same thing with questions, right? you could say something like, hey, I've got a handful of questions. Some may be complicated, some may be simple. So you're just kind of prefacing it. So when you have confidence in the types of questions that you ask, it makes your job easier, makes their job easier. And I think that really helps as being a woman, definitely. And I guess the second piece of advice that I would give is, and this may be controversial, I think it's very important.
Hey, we like controversy in this show.
I think it's very important to have your female tribe. I think it's complicated sometimes for certain types of women. So I would say be very open to who can be a mentor and an advocate for you. It doesn't always have to be a woman.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be, somebody the same ethnic background, or those are things that help us find commonality. But if those are a challenge, I would say, yeah, be open to who and also who you can advocate and who you can be there for.
Yeah.
As well.
And I think, and that's brilliant, because I think for me, I mean, I've had female and male mentors, and I think what's important actually is to recognize you can have different mentors for different things that you're trying to grow in. It's not one mentor or two mentors, it can be many mentors. And then the other thing is to recognize that you also can be a mentor no matter where you are in your journey. Because I look at it like I offer help to mentor people now, but I've always offered to give advice to people probably when I was 5, I'm sure, like my parents. I'm like, why are you doing that? So I think the reality is in our life, in our career, we have the ability to lift others up as we are lifting ourselves up too. So I think as a mentor, it should be understood by people who are mentors or consider themselves mentors that the mentee has the ability also to mentor the mentor. So I look at it like I'm going to learn something from anybody I mentor, and I have done, and I still have relationships with people that I met 20 years ago in that mentor capacity. And it's great, So excellent. Hey, Justine, I really appreciate the time. I know we're gone 4 minutes, so I don't know. I never count the time, actually. I don't give a shit. If the conversation's good and people are going to learn something and it's a little entertaining, it's brilliant for me. So look, really appreciate your time. Everybody, Justine Benjamin, she is the Chief Marketing Officer at Hex-Rays. And you should all know what that is. If not, the links will be in the show notes. So Justine, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to 909 Exec. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and don't miss an episode of your source for wit and wisdom in cybersecurity and beyond.